Thanks for joining us. I'm Megan Roberts. A hunter from Igloolik is still missing near Nauyat, Nunavut. Today, search and rescue teams from Igloolik and Sunny Ryak joined the efforts. The hunter has been missing since Tuesday. Air support was redeployed this morning and continues to search the area. The search is ongoing. 2 Nunavut volunteer firefighters are being credited with saving a life after a house fire earlier this week. The fire happened at a home in Sunny Ryak late Monday night and into Tuesday morning. Volunteer firefighter Albert Nuviak says the call came as a surprise.
Not good.
In the middle of the night, right when I was falling asleep and had my eyes closed, I heard the fire siren. I got up and grabbed a four-wheeler and zoomed to the fire hall.
Firefighters say one man was inside the home. Nuviak says his colleague, Sean Isigaitok, entered the home to help the man, who was then taken to the health center with minor injuries. Firefighters believe the fire started near the furnace room. The home suffered heavy smoke damage and will require significant renovations. 3 women who have reported allegations of historic sexual assault to the RCMP say they want to tell their stories publicly, despite several publication bans in the case. They hope to use a 2023 amendment to the criminal code that makes it easier for complainants to waive a publication ban on their names and anything that would identify them. Karen Pauls has the story.
I've had to mourn the loss of me, of who I was before it happened.
When Jessica Baker stepped forward as the woman Headley frontman Jacob Hogard was convicted of sexually assaulting, she did so under the protection of 2023 amendments to the criminal code that made it easier for complainants to waive publication bans on their identities. Morale Andrews was one of the women who fought for those changes.
If speaking out publicly and being loud and demanding change is what feels right, then all the power to them. For those who may wish to retain their publication bans, I think that's also the right choice. What's important is that people have the choice to make the decision that's right for them.
Now, that right is coming into play in a case in the Iqaluit court. 3 women, complainants in a case in which the same man is charged with multiple counts of sexual assault over decades, say they want the publication bans on their names lifted.
I am not ashamed for what someone did to me. It's not mine to carry, but theirs.
I'm not ashamed of my story or what happened to me. I stand in my truth, and I know many others who stand with me.
The ban only protects the accused. None of us were consulted, and none of us agree with it.
The complainants are being supported by the Amautit Nunavut Inuit Women's Association.
Many of these victims came out many years later, which means that a lot of what they're feeling has been suppressed, and they've been living in the shadow of this situation for so long that to continue to allow their names not being public is another way of silencing them.
Morale Andrews adds whether or not to revoke a publication ban is not a one-time decision.
You might go through the court process and want to retain your publication ban, and then maybe 10 years later you say, you know what, actually I'm ready to talk about this. Everyone can knock on the crown attorney's door based on this law and say, okay, I'm ready, I want it removed.
One of the challenges of this case, no crown has been assigned to it yet, partly over concerns of conflict of interest in a small legal community. Meanwhile, the matter will be back in court in Iqaluit on Friday. Karen Pauls, CBC News, Winnipeg.
In the Yukon, a potential buyer for the Eagle gold mine has emerged. The site of the 2024 mine failure has been a hot topic this week in the Legislative Assembly. Gabrielle Plonka reports.
Earlier this week, the Yukon government announced a potential buyer for the Eagle gold mine. A company from Singapore entered a 3-month exclusivity agreement. That means the company, Barreau Limited, is the only one in talks of buying the mine right now. Over the next 3 months, they'll try to work out a deal. that works for both the Yukon government and the First Nation of Natchonayak-Dun. The potential buyer has been a topic of interest among Yukon MLAs this week. Yesterday, the interim Liberal leader pressed the government on the First Nations' involvement in the sale. The government responded that Natchonayak-Dun will have a role. The day before, the Yukon NDP pressed the government on laying criminal charges against those responsible for the Eagle Mine failure. The NDP says in other jurisdictions, corporation agents can be held responsible for environmental crimes. Yukon's Minister of Mines avoided the question, but said the government is focused on improving regulatory oversight. The government says the Eagle Mine's future buyer will be responsible and well-resourced. Gabrielle Planca, CBC News, Whitehorse.
In the Northwest Territories, the Clichon government and Fortune Minerals are planning a new partnership. They've submitted an application for $50 million in federal funding to build a 50-kilometer access road to the NICO project site. The all-season road would extend north of Wati up to Fortune's planned cobalt, gold, bismuth, and copper mine. Fortune Minerals says the NICO site contains the largest deposit of bismuth in the world, about 12% of the world's known reserves. In addition to the joint venture application for federal funding, Fortune has also submitted a proposal to a U.S. defense supply program aimed at boosting domestic bismuth production. The city of Yellowknife wants to hear about key infrastructure in the city at an open house tonight. It's looking for input on how some of its facilities are being used and how they should be used. That includes the former Ruth Inch Memorial Pool. The building has sat empty for more than a year. The Yellowknife Performing Arts Center Working Group would like to see the pool converted into a combined performing arts and library facility, similar to the Stanley Milner Library in Edmonton.
And the feedback we've received from everybody has been overwhelmingly positive. I think there's a strong sense in the performing arts community here in Yellowknife that there's room for more facilities. The biggest single thing that we heard from people was the need for accessible rehearsal space.
The open house starts at 6:30 at the multiplex. Residents can also share their input in an online survey. With the arrival of the 60-day mark for the Iran war, there are growing questions about U.S. President Donald Trump's next moves. Could the U.S. president order more bombing or try to extend the ceasefire? Either way, Iran's supreme leader has made it clear where his country stands. Tom Perry reports.
We still haven't seen or heard Iran's supreme leader, Mojtaba Khamenei, but we have now got another written statement from him. It is quite a defiant statement aimed at the United States. He says that Iran will defend its missile and nuclear capabilities. And then he goes on to write, by God's will, the bright future of the Persian Gulf region will be one without the United States. Outsiders who come from thousands of kilometers away with greedy intentions have no place here except for in the depths of its waters. And he goes on to say, the Islamic Republic will ensure the security of the Persian Gulf to eliminate the misuse of this waterway by hostile enemies. So that's the latest message coming out of Iran. There is, of course, still a ceasefire between Iran and Israel and the United States. There's a ceasefire as well in place in Lebanon, the other front in this war. But we heard from the head of the IDF, the Israel's military, who was in southern Lebanon this week meeting with troops. And his message was that there really isn't a ceasefire in place, that despite this truce being in effect, the Hezbollah and IDF are still trading fire on a regular basis. The IDF today announced that it was telling people in 8 towns outside its buffer zone in southern Lebanon to evacuate, so presumably to expand operations against Hezbollah. The IDF says that 12 of its troops were injured in a Hezbollah drone strike. A cargo vehicle got hit by a drone, and Lebanon's health ministry says that IDF strikes killed 9 people, including 2 children. And meanwhile, in the north of Israel, sirens have been heard in the past day over suspected drones coming over from Hezbollah. So despite there being a ceasefire in place in Lebanon, in southern Lebanon, the fighting between the IDF and Hezbollah, it has not stopped. Tom Perry, CBC News, Jerusalem.
Iran's ongoing blockade of global oil shipments is creating a jet fuel shortage in Europe and Asia. Ashley Fraser breaks down the different ways this could hit Canadian travelers.
So you may have heard that Europe has
6 weeks or so jet fuel left.
fuel prices are nearly double what they were before the war in the Middle East began. But what does that mean if you're planning on traveling this summer?
Two things are going to happen. One, capacity will be reduced by the carrier, so you'll have less choice. And two, prices are going to go up.
Flight prices were already climbing due to inflation, but now many airlines are adding fuel surcharges or upping costs of base fares even more.
We've already seen jet fuel surcharges anywhere between $25 to $60 that could potentially increase.
Plus, there's a lack of fuel supply due to the blockage in the Strait of Hormuz. So could your flight get cancelled because there's actually no more fuel? Well, in Canada, 85% of aviation fuel is produced by Canadian refineries, so we don't have the same fuel supply issue as carriers in Europe or Asia. But Canadian airlines are still reducing flights if the route is not profitable enough.
More and more flights are going to be looked at under a lens and potentially canceled as a result of these high costs of fuel remaining in the marketplace.
You're going to have the same amount of Canadians all competing for fewer seats available on planes, which dynamically prices will increase.
And if you are traveling within Europe, certain countries are already rationing fuel, but long-haul flights to Europe are less likely to be affected.
They'll put together a plan that says the short-haul flights will be first to go, be the ones that will be canceled. So if you're country hopping in Europe, the odds are you better be looking at a backup on a train service.
And if you've already booked your flight, could the price still go up in some way? Not on the ticket itself, but this aviation expert says if you plan on adding on a checked bag or paying for seat selection,
pay for it up front so that you don't get any surprises when you get to the airport and all of a sudden the baggage fee went from $50 to $75.
So should you book a flight right now instead of waiting it out? In short, yes.
The odds of these fares coming back down as a result of a potential drop in prices of fuel, the odds are pretty slim.
Regardless if the Strait of Hormuz opens this week or not, airfare prices will rise. And that is also because inflation is increasing.
That was the CBC's Ashley Fraser. The federal government is pouring money into improving the Canadian military. But right now, funding isn't enough. More people are needed as well. The CBC's Murray Brewster has details on who they're looking for and the plans to boost recruitment.
Canada's military faces a daunting mission to more than triple its size. And the country's top general, who is close to presenting her recommendations to the federal cabinet.
In the next month or so, we will be able to present various options, and the discussion is going very well.
Recruitment to the armed forces is the highest it's been since 3 decades plus.
A lot of interest from the highest political office.
We're going to continue to grow the military and grow the military reserves. I'm encouraged by what's happened over the course of the last year.
The Prime Minister is encouraged by a modest turnaround in military enrollment numbers reported last week, partly spurred by last year's substantive pay raise. There is also renewed urgency. New equipment programs appear to be coming together quickly.
And we can show you around.
Two companies bidding on Canada's submarine contract have submitted their final proposals. The Air Force's first new F-35 comes off the assembly line later this year, in the face of a major pilot and technician shortage. The military has a long way to go to ensure it has enough personnel to staff and maintain those ships and planes. It is now about 8,500 short of its current modest target of 100,000 members. It wants to have almost 500,000 ready to fight in a crisis. And there are lessons being learned from allies already at war.
We had a specific Ukrainian situation where we did explore mobilization. So this is, of course, contributing to how we are going to build our own solution in Canada.
I hope that the plan that is coming from the Chief of Defence Staff will be taken seriously by this Liberal government and that they'll actually put the resources behind it.
This week's fiscal update tried to make it more attractive to join the reserves by offering paid skills training, a $275 million program, a drop in the bucket with what a full mobilization plan would need. Murray Brewster, CBC News, Ottawa.
The best solutions
are created by the North for the North.
We believe in our people. We believe in their ideas, their visions.
The impact of the work you do and the work we have done is saving lives.
The Arctic Inspiration Prize has an impact on communities across Canada's north greater than the sum of the investments.
From Yukon to Nunavut, Nunavik, Nunatsiavut, all across the north.
Canada's north,
across the north, by the north.
By the North. By the North, for the North.
This is the heart of AIP.
I am a champ.
I am a champ. I am a champ. I am a champ.
I am a champ. A member of the War Amps Child Amputee Program, thanks to your donations.
You're back.
I'm back. Anything else going on?
Mom? Nope. Where have you been for the past 15 years?
On the run. You are done with all the crime, right?
Oh, yeah.
You were going to steal us a diamond. Are you going to be able to keep it together on this one?
I am nothing if not profesh. Don't make me use this. Hi.
This is Jessica.
Nice to meet you. Jessica, she seems great.
We should all go out sometime.
I would love that.
Wild Cards on CBC Gem.
Now is the time.
Welcome to Lilith Fair. This is a living story.
I make people believe that impossible things are possible.
Manitoba announced a proposed social media ban for youth this week. It's intended to protect young people from the harmful effects of social media. It would be the first of its kind in Canada. 2 Yellowknife teenagers are already off social media. 16-year-old Nora Swan and her sister, 14-year-old Lucy Swan. Shannon Scott spoke to them about social media and the feasibility of a ban for youth.
I'm going to put this question to both of you. I'm going to start with you first, Lucy.
Okay.
Why don't you have social media?
Well, I think that it's my parents' choice, but also my choice, because I've heard some things that it's very bad for your mental health, and I would just like to kind of stay away from that. And I think it's mostly, from what I've heard, Instagram and TikTok. But so I don't know. I just feel like it's not something that I'm very interested in to have it.
I just feel like I have been interested in it in the past. I just feel like I like to protect my peace, you know? Like, I just feel like it seems kind of overwhelming. And yeah, just for mental health, I've heard a lot of bad stuff. And so I just kind of want to protect myself and stay away from that. I did feel a little bit of pressure for a while, but I think I just moved past that. So yeah, I don't really feel pressured anymore, I guess. I think it's actually kind of freeing not to have it in a way.
Nora, what do you think about banning social media outright for people your age?
I mean, to me right now, it seems kind of impossible because it it just has a grip on so many kids my age, my whole generation, you know what I mean? So I think it really depends how you go about it. But I think if it does help the problem of mental health and all the negative side effects from social media for kids, I think it's a good thing. I just think it has to be done right, you know? I don't really think kids under 14 should have it. I think kids my age should kind of be allowed to make their own decision, but I think, kids my age have really been affected by it. So I think banning it would be a good thing. I just even just making it safer for teenagers would be a good thing.
Lucy, we had an expert on the show this week who talked about how, putting in a ban for teenagers is all well and good, but teenagers are really good at getting around rules.
That's very true.
Yeah, right? Do you think that a ban could be effective, or do you see, people like your friends finding ways around it?
Well, I think that I think it's a good idea, but I think
people already lie about their age online. Like, even for, like, oh, like, you're entering your age, you have to enter your age, like, for a video game, you know? I feel like people, like, they will put, like, a higher age, you know? And, like, I think that people already lie about their age, so I don't really know how they're going to get around that. I agree with Lucy, yeah.
Yeah?
I think it's, like, hard because, like, you've been, like, introduced to something that you love and, like, you use, like, every single day. And, like, honestly, like, you're addicted to it, you know? Like, to have that being taken away, I think is going to be really, like, hard to navigate, you know? Like, for a lot of people. Because your favorite thing is just being taken away, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I'll be honest here. I sometimes find myself losing more time than I'm willing to admit scrolling through social media. For adults like me who are struggling here, what would be your advice? Do you have any advice for us on how to break this cycle?
If we want it to change with youth, I think it needs to change with adults as well because they're contributing to, like, the societal problem. You know what I mean? I think it's like everyone knows the risks of social media, but I think because it's such, like, a societal thing now, like, everyone's on it, I think, yeah, like, I think it encourages teens to be on it even more. So I would just say, like, reevaluate why you want it and, like, you know, just set a good example, I guess.
Wise words there from Nora. Traveling down south for medical care is a common reality in the north. 19-year-old Kira Young knows that journey intimately. She traveled from Yellowknife to Edmonton for years, desperately searching for a diagnosis for her illness. She was eventually told she had a rare autoinflammatory disease. Now she wants to raise awareness around what that journey is like. She's planning to ride her bike from Yellowknife to Edmonton to highlight the challenges of traveling for healthcare.
Yeah, so the idea actually initially came to me when I was in Edmonton at the Stollery a couple years ago. So far away from my family, so far away from my friends and my home. And I grew up as a pretty active person, skiing, running, biking, spending lots of time outside. And it just occurred to me, man, it would be fun one day when I'm recovered to retrace this whole route somehow outside. On my own two legs. And initially I thought, oh, maybe I'll run it. But then when it actually came down to the logistics, it's too far to run. So in the fall of 2025, I kind of just decided that this was the summer. So I did some research and decided that I would bike the route and retrace the journey that I've made so many times down to Edmonton, but also the journey that so many other people in the Northwest Territories have to make. Our distance per day is kind of variable based on what communities we can stop in for the night. It's anywhere from about 120 kilometers to our longest day is 200 kilometers. And my mom will be driving most of the way, and then I'll be doing the bike ride with one of my lifetime friends from Yellowknife, Ella Coquel, as well as one of my roommates from Ontario, Sophia Sikapatel.
So you've got like a whole group going with you. This isn't you alone on a bike.
Certainly not. And I think that's really representative as well of, my whole journey with illness. I was really never alone. I was always doing it with the support of my friends and my family.
The ride will start on June 5th to coincide with the 15th annual Yellowknife to Hay River bike ride. It's expected to take 10 days to complete. The Alberta government is testing out something new on the province's busiest highway. It's allowing drivers to travel faster on a section that runs between Calgary and Edmonton. Sarah Reed reports.
We're along the QE2 highway just south of Leduc, where the speed limit here is now 120 kilometers per hour. Now, the speed change from 110 to 120 is all part of a provincial pilot project that will run from the commercial vehicle inspection station just past Leduc for 22 kilometers south on QE2. Now, the province says that it has already made some safety improvements to this area, including longer ramps and speed slope paving. Now, it also says it's going to use the pilot to collect data about driver habits, traffic flow, and safety outcomes using speed sensors on the overpasses. But the Minister of Transportation says he already has an idea of what they may or may not see during the pilot.
Obviously, collisions, that's something that we don't obviously anticipate because the vast majority of people on Highway 2 are going 120 or faster already. So we don't think that's going to be a scary metric that will move.
The province says that the main reason behind the pilot project is reducing travel times. But there are groups, including some engineers and first responders, that are expressing concerns about the potential safety impacts. The Alberta Road Builders and Heavy Construction Association says it's worried that increased speeds could lead to increased danger for highway workers and damaged infrastructure. Now, the province says that it doesn't anticipate having to increase its infrastructure budget, and if all goes well with this pilot project, that could lead to a potential increase in speed limits on other divided highways across the province. Sarah Reed, CBC News, Edmonton.
The Klondike River, which flows into the Yukon River at Dawson City, has been put on ice advisory. That's the Yukon government's first level of flood advisory. The Yukon government says water levels have been gradually rising, with small sections of ice beginning to detach and drift downstream. As temperatures get warmer, officials expect ice to begin shifting tomorrow and continue into the weekend. This critical period for ice jamming is expected to continue to May 4th. Officials warn residents to stay clear of fast-flowing rivers and potentially unstable riverbanks during the high stream flow period. They say flood-prone property owners should have a plan in place in the event of a flood. And that is Northbeat for tonight. For news anytime, go to cbc.ca/north. Thank you for watching. I'm Megan Roberts. Have a good night.